guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back if you are new here. Today I'm going over my least favorite books of 2024. These are books that I read, I just did not love as much. They were disappointing. I had high hopes for them and they let me down. So let's talk about them. I feel like the first one on my list is gonna be so controversial, and I'm so sorry if you loved this book. Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I just didn't love this book as much. I'm so sorry. I loved the other two in this series, but this one I felt like the characters seemed more, they gave me brother-sister vibes more than lovers, you know? I just didn't, I got annoyed with the main female character. The guy was just like, let me be a doormat. And I just really didn't like this book. Like I really did not. And I don't know, maybe it was just the time that I read it. Cause I feel like sometimes if you read a book and you're not like in the best headspace, or it's just like not the right time to read it, you're a little bit more harsh with your judgment of it. I don't know, but this one just did not do it for me. But I've seen so many people rave about this book and I'm just like, no, this is not. I just couldn't get down with this one. I didn't feel like these characters should be together. I didn't like them together. I just didn't like them. So that's my thoughts on it. If you loved this book, I'm so sorry, but it just wasn't for me. But if you loved it and it spoke to you, that is wonderful. It did have some heavy, hard-hitting topics, but I just didn't feel like it was done as well as like the other two books. I also, the way that it ties in with the rest of the series, I felt like was so rushed. This book was pretty long, and it was long for the sake of being long, and they rushed that connection with the first two books, which irritated me because I was like, there's so much you could really dive deep into that, and they just kind of rushed through that, and it bothered me. I'm sorry, it bothered me. I didn't love this book like everybody else. Next up was You Shouldn't Have Come Here by Jeneva Rose. I was so looking forward to this book and I was like, it's gonna be great, and it just fell flat for me. I don't know, I didn't love it. The twist was interesting, but it was another one of those where I'm like, why are the characters so stupid? Like if you go here and the vibes are not vibing, why wouldn't you leave, you know? Instead she was like, well, I'm gonna leave in like 5 days. And I'm like, why are you not leaving now? Which it does make sense once you get to the twist, but like it just, I don't know. I don't know. If you're ever in a situation where the vibes aren't vibing and you feel something's off, you need to leave. But I guess that wouldn't make for a good thriller. But you know, there are plenty of good thrillers, but the characters aren't dumb, you know? I don't know. I just did not love this book. Let me know your thoughts on it. Basically about this woman who needs a break from her life. So she goes to this like place out in Montana, I think, in the middle of nowhere. There's no cell signal. The Airbnb guy is creepy and she just doesn't get in her car and leave. And I'm like, if I got somewhere and I didn't have cell signal and the Airbnb host is creepy and giving me weird vibes, I'm out. I'm out so fast. Like get back in that car and hightail it out of there. Again, I think this one's gonna be a little controversial and I might be a little bit more hard on this than I need to be, but my next one is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This was my first and only Colleen Hoover book that I've read. There were a lot of things I really liked about this book. There are a lot of things I did not like about this book, which is why I'm putting it on this list. For one, the over-the-top spice that was just unnecessary in this book bothered me a lot. Also, the overuse of the F word bothered me a lot. I don't mind if you use it sometimes. I personally do not like that word at all. So I try to limit when I hear it or read it or whatever. And this one just had it way too much for me. And then the over-the-top spice was just like, can we do something else? We get it. Y'all like to be together. It's great. But overall, the mystery and the thriller aspect of it, I really did enjoy. I think it's such a great book. Like you don't actually know in the end who the bad guy really is. I love that because you can keep thinking about it. So I do think about this like all the time. So it's like one of those books where I'm like, I probably should have put it on my top books for 2024. Instead, it's ending up on my least favorite books of 2024. I don't mind if you have some spice, but it's like for a while it felt like it was every chapter. And when you use the F word to describe that, it just really bothers me. So I won't say that it's a bad book. I'm mixed on this one because I did actually enjoy the storyline. I thought that it kept me interested. I had to know what was happening. I am very excited about the movie for it, but the book just, I don't know. The book, when I was reading it, just didn't sit with me well with all the language and all the smut. So I'm very torn. This probably shouldn't be on my least favorites of 2024, but I'm very torn. I have like a love-hate relationship with this book, but I am very excited for the movie, and I'll probably have to reread the book before the movie, so maybe I'll have a new appreciation for it the next time I read it. Next up is The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This one I had high hopes for, but I felt like it was dragging on. It was kind of confusing at times. It just didn't hold my attention well, and I feel like it took me way too long to finish this. I should have DNF'd it, but I just don't like DNFing books for some reason, so I should have though, because this one it wasn't for me. I don't know, it wasn't for me. I'm not done with Lucy Foley, but I don't know, I was so excited for this one. It sounded so good, and it just fell flat for me. And I remember the twist, kind of, but I don't feel like the twist was even that good. Like, I wasn't just like, oh man, like that was crazy. I think by the time we got to the twist, I was just so uninterested that I was just like, I don't care. You know, that's my thoughts on that. Next up is All the Colors of the Dark by Chris Whitaker. I've heard very mixed things about this one. Some people loved it, some people hated it. It was so long. It was so long. I listened to this on audio, thank goodness, because I never would have made it through. This was a book club book, which is the only reason I even ended up finishing this. I thought this would have been a really good book had it been like 300 pages less, but there was just too much going on. There were too many characters. There were too many time jumps. It was kind of all over the place. And for that, it was a disappointment for me, to be honest. I do think the overall themes and storylines were good, but it needed to be a lot shorter and not as many characters. You know, like this felt like it was a whole TV series in a book. You know, it was too much. It was too much. So it was good, but it also wasn't. I know that makes no sense. Like the themes and the storylines of friendship and family and strength and whatever were good, but it was too long, and it was long for the sake of being long. It spans from like the 1970s, I think, until the early 2000s. So if that helps you understand, like, lots of timelines and lots of characters and lots of things to keep up with, and it was a lot. It was a lot in a book. I might reread it one day, and like, I feel like you just need a notebook to take notes on what's going on in this book. Next up is The Rom-Commers. I had high hopes for this one because it looked like it was gonna be cute, but it was one of those where I just didn't feel the chemistry between the two characters. So it was kind of unbelievable to me that they, you know, ended up together. Spoiler alert, they, you know, I won't tell you everything that happens, but it was just kind of unbelievable. The chemistry wasn't there. It had its cute moments, it had potential, but I feel like it just fell flat. I don't know if like, I think it was because the romance part of it felt kind of rushed. Like we had to establish that they were enemies first and then get them to the romance part. And it just, I didn't feel it. I didn't feel the chemistry, didn't feel the romance. It didn't seem believable to me that these characters hated each other so much and then loved each other so much. It just, I will say there was no spice in this. So if you are not a spice fan, this is a good romance book to read because of that. But I personally just, I don't know. I didn't feel the chemistry there, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't read it or try it out or that you wouldn't like it. Just for me personally, I just didn't connect with it, you know, like I wanted to, which is why it's on this list of like kind of disappointing because I didn't connect with it like I wanted to. I just didn't find it as believable as I wanted it to be. All right, the last physical copy that I have is The Coworker by Freida McFadden. I love Freida. I have a couple books on this list that were not my favorite, this being one of them. I felt this one was just very, very weird. I didn't like part of the writing was like through email. There'd be chapters where it was just like a whole email of like this person talking about stuff. I didn't like the format. I thought it was weird. I thought the twist was weird. I thought the ending was weird. It just wasn't my favorite Freida book. It just kind of fell flat for me. I know some people really like this, and that's great. It's not like the worst book I've ever read, but it just wasn't my favorite. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was just okay. It was a quick read, but it just was weird, you know? I have 3 books that I don't have the physical copies because I believe I listened to 2 of them and I read 1 on my Kindle. So the first one that I read on my Kindle was Do Not Disturb by Freida McFadden. Again, I felt this one was kind of weird. And then there were points where I was a little confused about what was happening and I had to go back and reread something to be like, wait, that wasn't mentioned, but now it's mentioned here. And it was just kind of weird, you know, and it wasn't my favorite. So that's why it's on this list, because I just left that book feeling like, no, that just didn't do it for me, you know? No hate or shade. If you like these books, these are just my own personal thoughts and opinions. Stuff that I like, you may hate, and stuff you hate, I may like, and it's fine. Everybody's allowed to have their opinions about books that they like or don't like. Anyway, but this one was just, it didn't do it for me. I'm sorry, Freida, it just didn't do it for me. Next up, I have the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. I listened to this through the Libby app through my library. I did not like this one. I started out like sweet Hallmark vibes. It had a lot of spice to it. The spice felt, again, it just felt like we were throwing it in there to have spice and not like it actually felt like it fit with the storyline. Like I've read a lot of books that do have spice that I'm okay with because it actually kind of flows with the book and it seems like it fits. I did not feel like this one fit. I felt like this was just like, we have this sweet little Hallmark romance thing going on and oh, we need to like throw this randomly in here and like go from 0 to 100 real quick, you know? I didn't care for it. I didn't like it. I also maybe would have had a better experience reading the book versus listening to it because the lady narrating it was just annoying, but it is what it is. So I just did not care for this book that much. And then following that, I listened to The Christmas Tree Farm by the same author, same narrator. Again, we had like the Hallmark Christmassy vibes. I feel like the characters in these books are kind of ridiculous too, which it doesn't make me like them because they're kind of whiny or they got like all this drama that seems like unnecessary. And it's like, just communicate with each other, please. Just like talk out your problems. But yeah, The Christmas Tree Farm was a little bit better than the Pumpkin Spice Cafe. They meet and they're instantly like, oh, I want to get in bed with this person kind of thing. And I'm like, whoa, like, could you get to know them? Like actually learn their name before we're like hopping into bed, you know? So that's why I was just like, I just don't like this. I don't believe in the romance. I don't care for the characters. The spice just feels very thrown in there and like exaggerated to be smutty, you know? And it's just like, I'm fine with a little bit of spice, but like make it make sense, you know? All right, so those are all of my least favorite books of 2024. I'm sorry if you liked some of these and I put it on this list, but this is just my own personal thoughts and opinions. This does not mean that anything that I have said on here, I would say you shouldn't read. I definitely think if you have interest in it, if you want to, you know, read it, go for it. Because, you know, that's the thing is like, I can sit here and say how much I don't like a book, but for you, it could be your favorite book. So don't, not just with me, but with anybody, if they're saying like, don't read this book because it's horrible, but you still want to read it, you know? Like, cause you can always DNF it if you don't like it, but give it a chance. Don't just take somebody's thoughts and opinions because they're literally just my thoughts and opinions. It's not fact. It's not like this book is the worst book and everybody, like that's a fact. Like, no, that's my opinion. So if you want to read any of these books, go read it. If you enjoyed any of these books, let me know in the comments below that you enjoyed it or you didn't like it or whatever. Let me know. What was your most disappointing read of 2024? Let me know in the comments below. That is it for today's video and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.